Jennifer Hudson is more resilient and more heartache than most individuals could ever imagine. The type of heartache that it reshapes you, not just breaks you. And just when it seems that she would discovered love, tranquility, and someone at last, it fell, and she could trust once more, separate. Since Common wasn't merely a different dude. It was he who spoke first, the appropriate actions. The person who spoke about development, recovery, and eternity. The someone who convinced her that love could be secure once more. However, occasionally the phrases that people make the loveliest sounds, who cause the most severe wounds. And now behind the stage and the red carpet's grins, the truth is beginning to come out regarding what actually went wrong, regarding who was in actual pain, and why. Even a strong woman like Jennifer Hudson was forced to leave. This isn't an account of a celebrity's breakup. This is utterly of survival. Additionally, the more you discover, the more tragic it becomes. Prior to the red carpets and the Jennifer Hudson was already making news. Survivor. On the surface, she appears to be the powerhouse was bit. Grammy award-winning vocalist, talk show host, Oscar-winning actress, and icon in her own right. However, behind the Jennifer's life, the spotlight and the smile has been characterized by unspeakable suffering. Her entire world fell apart in 2008 when she lost both her brother and nephew, all in one violent, destructive catastrophe. The sort of sorrow that might a person can be permanently silenced. However, Jennifer didn't vanish. She refused to allow that she is defined by anguish. Through the song, she sang grief, overcame the pain, and she gradually recovered from the ashes of all of the things she had lost. Then she arrived during partnership with David Otanga. It appeared to be love at first. After becoming engaged and having a son, whereas stability seems to have discovered her at last. However, even that tale taken a sinister turn. In the background, according to Jennifer, things weren't what they appeared. Otanga was charged by her with emotional control, jealousy, and manipulation. She even submitted a protective order application, expressing concern for her son's security. People noticed the headlines. The trauma was experienced by Jennifer. Nevertheless, throughout it all, she continued to appear at job, life, and interviews. Due to that is Jennifer's behavior. She makes it through. Thus, as the first whispers began to circulate she and Common had more in common than fans of Bree's co-stars weren't simply, they were intrigued and hopeful. Wishing that this time Jennifer had at last located not only her, but someone who saw her hard ability. Someone who could compete with her development, her recovery, and her emotional depth. This time, it didn't appear to be a sloppy comeback. It appeared to be a grown woman choose to find love how she wants. And the way she grinned while with it wasn't loud, common. It was not ostentatious, it was delicate and subdued. Like if someone who was at last relearning how to trust, and this time praying would be different. However, after going through that, a great deal when their heart is broken and repaired with stitches more than, they are difficult to fall. Additionally, they don't let anyone fool you. For this reason, people paid when Jennifer opted for Common, pay attention. Because if she had faith in him, perhaps he was truly credible. He is profound. He has a spiritual side. He's charming. The type of man who writes poetry before dawn and discusses love as if it were a holy rite. However, the thing about Common is this. He says all that is appropriate. He simply doesn't remain. Externally, Common appears similar to the dream. A thoughtful rapper, an acclaimed actor, a man who practices meditation, treatment, and advocacy Black women in public. However, when it comes to it's difficult to ignore the pattern of love. Taraji P. Hennon, Erica Serena Williams and Ava, Tiffany Haddish, Angela Rye, and Badu Duivere. They came into his life one by one. Women who are strong, beautiful, and accomplished. And they silently left one by one. In the worst sense, it's almost poetic. Every time the partnership begins with assurance, interviews that are full of adoration, warm-hearted photographs, smiles that imply this person's distinct. However, wait a few months and headlines like Common are returning, separates from or has made the decision to do so ways in a kind manner and the constant reason ambiguous. Constantly silent and always presented as reciprocal. However, following the fifth or sixth instance, fans ceased inquiring about what transpired and began inquiring as to why it continues. In a rare interview that was brutally honest, Common acknowledged something that halted individuals in their tracks. He claimed to have a problem with something, referred to as love addiction. Not a physical intimacy addiction, not to sexual activity, but to the sensation, the high that occurs at the start of a connection. The butterflies, the passion, the excitement of being sought after and loved. He checks after that wears off. He referred to it as a personal task. Stated that he was engaged in it, that he intended to therapy, which he desired to develop. And perhaps he meant all he said, but healing isn't just about what you say in interviews. It concerns the women you don't go away silently. It concerns the you don't destroy hearts while calculating, take a break. Furthermore, by the time he met Jennifer Hudson, that trend had already firmly established. Yes, he was charming. No, he wasn't romantic. Uncertainty, but dedication that was always the component that is missing. Thus, when people noticed Jennifer in common, them together, there was excitement. But there was also worry because if he was unable to collaborate with Tiffany, Taraji, or Serena, what led anyone to believe that it would be this time? Is it different? Furthermore, deeper still, why Jennifer believed she was the exception. Perhaps she thought that therapy had been successful. Perhaps she had second thoughts, opportunities, or perhaps she wished to think that even pattern-setting men can change seeking the appropriate woman. However, occasionally AA phase is not a pattern. Occasionally it's the reality concealed by the charm. It just seems right sometimes. 2 individuals, 2 legacies, and 1 indisputable relationship. Additionally, for a while, isn't that exactly how it felt? When first, Jennifer Hudson and Common showed up together on the film's set, the chemistry was instantaneous. Admirers captured snippets of lighthearted conversation, stolen looks, as well as that subtle intimacy that cannot be achieved by co-star training fake. However, it wasn't until the joint interviews, the carpets, and the Chicago's regular low-key dating nights in New York where people first chatting and cheering. This didn't feel like another stunt from Hollywood. It didn't seem like Common's typical frenzy. It seemed to be 2 mature adults, each with combat wounds, opting for tranquility over mayhem. They didn't make a big show of it. No spectacular soft launches on Instagram, no large gestures intended only for clicks, natural relationship that gradually made its way into the spotlight. Additionally, when Common finally mentioned Jennifer in interviews, the compliments weren't the same. It was personal. He made a call to their partnership as a boon. According to him, it was among the most significant relationships of his existence. He discussed collaboration, development, recovery, the kind such statements you make solely when you're every seriously. On the inside, she is a lovely person, and away. She pushes me to improve. She perceives me differently than I do, myself. Typical in an interview on the radio. For Jennifer, it went beyond simply being observed. Being safe was the main concern. Following grief, everything she had experienced, betrayal, heartbreak in public, and ordinary people gave her the impression that she could breathe. Once again, as if she didn't need to struggle to receive love itself. Fans initially dismissed it. He's amiable. He exudes charm. That's precisely who he is. However, it continued. The rumors continued to circulate, and the quiet from Jennifer and Common men that exceeded the volume of their words, collectively. Insiders then began to leak. More. Sources close to Jennifer. It was said that Common men had been making casual remarks about her behind her back. Small passive comments that are dismissive rather than nasty. She can be intense at times. It's not always take it easy on her. She lives in her own universe, and all I'm doing is looking for room in it. Those may seem insignificant, yet from the same individual who previously called, she is a partner, a blessing, and a reflection of his spirit. Those words seem to separation. And in a romantic relationship, distance can be fatal. However, the actual pivotal moment that caused even close friends to wonder was the proposal. What was happening? Rumor. As stated by several insiders, ordinary people had been preparing a proposal, not merely considering it, but organizing it. Jennifer rejected him as well. No scene, no drama, simply a forceful but silent no. She wasn't prepared. She did not know. Perhaps she simply didn't want to recite the previous. Or perhaps she had a gut feeling that this love, regardless of how lovely it is appeared, wasn't long-lasting. Additionally, if she truly did reject, then that is accurate. His suggestion, then what transpired. Could have been the tipping point for Common. We know the following about him. He enjoys the start, the pursuit, the intensity. However, when reality sets in, when love begins to demand patience, he frequently examines depth and sacrifice. Out. And perhaps that's what took place, in this place. Jennifer did not turn to leave. She just stopped, inhaled, and inquired herself if she was prepared to reestablish trust, to risk falling once more. Additionally, in that silence, perhaps Common heard denial. Perhaps that was all there was to it. Took for him to begin vanishing. First, emotionally, and then physically. When Jennifer Hudson is one of those women who hesitates, it's not because she lacks love. Take care. The reason is that she has already been loved, too much, and suffered too much loss. To recognize the reasons why Jennifer might have rejected Common's suggestion or even emotionally distanced from the connection, you must delve further than radio interviews and the red carpet. You must keep in mind what she managed to survive. Long prior to the arrival of common men, Jennifer had already gone through one of the most terrible individual catastrophes in history of Hollywood. In 2008, her mom, her brother, and her nephew, who is 7 years old, were all killed in the gruesome act of aggression. Her own family was involved, and it destroyed her entire universe. She vanished, removed from the public eye for months, and when she returned, she brought with her power. Indeed, but with barriers as well. Next, then she started dating David Otunga. It felt like healing at first. He was stable, active, and collectively they brought up their son. However, behind the scenes, it was control, not peace. Jennifer said he was emotionally abusive. She asserted that he would become envious and make excessive calls, without difficulty, and utilize their child as a pawn to observe her. The circumstances were so severe that she requested protection, indicating that she was afraid for her safety. Otunga refuted the charges, and was ultimately exonerated of misconduct. However, regardless of the ruling of the courts, Jennifer survived it all. She still bore the scars of emotion. She still needed to regain her feeling of security, both as a woman and as a mom. Thus, when someone like Common seems pleasant, well-spoken, spiritual, one could be tempted to think it's safe to fall in love again. However, trauma doesn't vanish simply because a man says the appropriate things. Occasionally, when a woman's hesitation isn't due to terrified of him, it's due to her fear, considering what she stands to lose if she is mistaken once more. And that hushed, profound fear of going through the same cycle again, of putting your trust in someone just to be let down, can be paralyzing once more. So perhaps Jennifer rejected the suggestion, not because she loved him, but rather because she didn't gamble because she liked herself, her tranquility. Furthermore, if that hesitancy was encountered with a lack of emotion in typical of remoteness, distance, or silent animosity, then perhaps Jennifer was correct to distance themselves even more. Since the kind of love she required wasn't founded on ostentatious displays and interviews that are poetry. It was constructed on constancy, endurance, and security. And if it weren't typical for her to feel that way, not completely, then leaving wasn't vulnerability. It was sagacity. Not a press release, no emotional outburst on the podcast, non-nasty fallout on social media, simply quiet. In a sector where splits frequently become brand possibilities, when a single tweet or interview can dominate news stories for weeks, the conclusion of Common's and Jennifer Hudson's was a quiet friendship. Too silent. There was no affirmation, no rejection, and no red table conversation, no profile in a magazine, silence, no subtweets, and plan. Due to Jennifer Hudson's new to this, she has seen love blossom into war. She has seen trust transform into trauma. And she wasn't going this time to let it spiral all over again. Perhaps consequently, because Common supposedly prepared to propose when he started discussing marriage in public, and with hints of long-term intentions, Jennifer retreated. Not because she was unwilling to love, but she didn't want to because bargain for her peace in order to obtain a ring. According to those close to her, she wasn't at ease that she paused, that something pertaining to Common, the emotional instability, the vanishing acts, the discrepancy between his words and actions felt too familiar. She had previously seen this film, and this love was the reason she knew how it ended. Is more than simply chemistry and red carpets, it's consistency. It's security. It's the truth. And a woman named Jennifer Hudson, whose whole universe has been torn apart, was not going to remain in anything that felt unsteady, regardless of how it appeared stunning from the outside. Thus, perhaps she declined the offer. Perhaps she began to retreat, on an emotional level. Maybe she let the distance flourish since she knew in her heart that if she would be the last one left if you didn't end it now. Broken once more. The problem is this. Women are frequently commended for sticking, for sacrificing in order to make it work. However, Jennifer's actions, leaving before she lost herself, prior to disregarding her intuition, prior to repeating the cycle. Quietly, she made her decision, with grace and without apology. Furthermore, he might not have comprehended it. He may have experienced rejection. However, ego was not the issue here. It concerned survival. Since a lady likes Jennifer Hudson leaves without saying anything, uttering a single syllable, not because of fearful of conflict. It's because she has already faced more difficult challenges. And she has finally discovered that she is not in debt. Anyone a war to demonstrate her worthiness of affection. Initially, they appeared to be equals. Two celebrities, two triumphs, one firm love. However, in Hollywood and when a woman achieves greater success in real life, things begin to change. Hudson Jennifer was flying. Her talk show was doing quite well. Her music legacy was unshakable. Her acting career still strong. And in every interview, on every stage, she radiated the energy of a woman who had finally found her lane and was owning it. Common, on the other hand, well, his star hadn't dimmed, but it wasn't burning as hot. His last few film roles flew under the radar. His music had grown more niche. And while he remained respected in the industry, he was no longer the center of it. And quietly, that imbalance started to show. According to insider whispers, Jennifer had become the bigger name in the room, the one drawing more press, the one booking more deals, the one brands wanted on their front row, while Common's the spiritual king of conscious rap began fading into the background. And some sources claim he noticed. There were murmurs that Common started feeling small in her world, that he didn't like being the plus one, that he felt outshined, even emasculated by the force that was Jennifer Hudson. And while he never said it directly, there were signs. He started skipping events she hosted. He stopped promoting her wins on social media. He became distant, not in anger, but in insecurity. Because sometimes when a man says he wants a strong woman, what he really means is, as long as she doesn't outgrow me. And Jennifer, she wasn't going to shrink to protect someone else's pride. Not after everything she'd overcome. Not when she had finally reclaimed her power. The truth is, Jennifer wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. And for a man like Common, who's used to being the center of attention, the one offering wisdom and depth and growth, watching her soar past him may have triggered something he couldn't admit out loud. Not jealousy, not resentment, just insecurity. A quiet voice that whispered, "She doesn't need you anymore." And maybe that voice grew louder than any love they once had. Because relationships don't just crumble from conflict. Sometimes they decay insolence, when one person grows and the other stalls. And if Common couldn't celebrate Jennifer's rise without questioning his own worth, then maybe the end of their relationship wasn't just about commitment. Maybe it was about compatibility and power. So what really happened between Jennifer Hudson and Common? Was he the heartbreaker or the one quietly heartbroken? Was she protecting herself or pushing away the very love she craved? Or was it just never meant to last in the first place? The truth is, we may never get a straight answer. There won't be a tell-all. There won't be a messy podcast rant because both Jennifer and Common have mastered something rare in this industry, disappearing gracefully, and maybe that's what makes this story so addictive. Not the cheating rumors, not the whispers about commitment issues or hidden identities, not even the power imbalance, but the haunting human possibility that even when two people want love, try for love, speak the language of love, they can still fall apart. Not because they're broken, but because they weren't aligned. Maybe Jennifer was still healing from wounds she never spoke about. Maybe Common was still chasing a version of himself he hadn't fully become. And maybe, just maybe, they both hoped it would work, but knew it wouldn't. Because in the end, love isn't just about timing, chemistry, or connection, it's about courage. The courage to stay, the courage to grow together, the courage to choose someone over your fears. And sometimes even the strongest people just aren't ready. So here we're, left with questions, whispers, and fragments of a love story that looked perfect until it quietly wasn't. But now, we want to hear from you. Was Jennifer Hudson protecting her peace or avoiding true intimacy? Was Common trying to love or just playing a role he didn't know how to escape? And when the silence settled, who was really the one left hurting the most? Let us know what you believe in the comments below, because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about two celebrities. It's a story about all of us, about the walls we build, the love we crave, and the quiet ways we lose each other, even when no one's watching. Even when no one's watching.